The Jason Galka Show is brought to you by Blue Chip Marketing. If you have a great idea and want the whole world to know about it, Blue Chip Marketing is the way to go. They will make sure that your idea expands from your brains worldwide with their powerful media marketing resources and advice that you can't get anywhere else.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. I'm Jason Galka, and I'm back in Long Beach, New Jersey today, having dinner with the boys here at the New Jersey Repertory Company, which is an amazing local theater out here in Long Beach, New Jersey. And I'm joined by Gabor Barabbas and actor Dan Lauria. Hello, gentlemen.
Jason, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Jason.
Dan, always great to have you back. This is probably my third interview with you now. So
there's not much more to say.
There isn't, but you know, we'll talk about your new show. Dinner with the Boys is actually playing right here now at the NJREP. And Gabor, you're actually the executive producer here, so I'm going to start with you. Tell us about this fabulous theater that you have here.
Yeah, we started about 17 years ago, and
wow.
We're located about 2 blocks from the Jersey Shore.
Great location.
Yeah, it's fabulous. And we got it into our head early on that we wanted to focus primarily on doing new plays, which is what we've been doing for the past 17 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're lucky. We have Dan's play here. It's our 105th production over this time, and we've had a really good time with it.
Yeah. Excellent. And you also have some very successful shows that actually started here. Butler's now on Broadway. Butler started here.
We're hoping that it's going there, and
okay.
it's in the works. Yes,
that's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
So that's got to feel good.
Yeah, I mean, we of course get a lot out of being able to introduce a play for the first time to the public. But I think what really motivates us is seeing the plays go beyond our theater. So we play a pretty active role in that. Last 2 years. Easily 10 plays have gone on to other theaters. Some have appeared in New York and London, and they kind of get their legs here, and then they go on into the wider world.
Wow,
Isn't Kathleen Turner doing
Yeah, I was just going to say Kathleen Turner's over in London right now,
exactly,
right?
With a play, Bakersfield Mist, and the play that you mentioned, Butler, just a wonderful Civil War play by Richard Strand, is certainly going to have a life beyond our theaters somewhere in New York.
Wow, that's great. And you actually kind of started off as a poet at one time, right? You did some poetry, and then how did it lead into theater?
Well, I kind of started as a poetry, which I've been doing all my life, and for 30-something years I was a neurologist. But during that period of time,
that's quite a 360 there.
But with Suzanne, who's my wife, who's the artistic director here, we grew up in New York, and she's the one who turned me on to theater. It wasn't something that I came from an immigrant family in Hungary. Theater was kind of the farthest experience from anything in my life, and she took me to my first play on Broadway, and gradually I kind of got the idea that it would be wonderful to advocate for playwrights and plays, and to try to play a bit of a role in that.
Right. I mean, New Jersey does have about 41 theaters.
It does.
Also, but what is so specific about this one? This one really kind of sets the bar, truthfully.
Well, it's always a little bit embarrassing for me to talk about my theater, but I think the one important thing about our theater, which I'm very pleased with, is that we decided that we would focus on new plays, which, as you know, is very non-pragmatic, very bad business model. But the satisfaction is tremendous when you can introduce a play and help develop it and assist the playwright in getting their vision on stage.
And he has 17 plays published. That's one a year.
Wow.
I can't think of any regional theater that's averaging
Yeah.
one play published a
That's
year.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's got to feel good, though. I mean, you know, you say you come from an immigrant family, so, I mean, what is it like for you to have accomplished all of this?
Well, it's a bit difficult to say from the standpoint of having accomplished it. I'm just a catalyst. I just provide an environment. And then all these amazing creative people step into the breach and have an opportunity to do what they need to do.
Wow, it's amazing though. And right now, Dan, your play is playing here right now, Dinner with the Boys. Let's talk about it. Tell us about it. I did see it 2 weeks ago, but for the audience that hasn't seen it, let's let them in on it.
Well, it's a very dark comedy. There's a few laughs. A lot of people are laughing, even at some of the grossest moments. But it's really a play about all the violence that we're consuming. So it's a little bit of Sweeney Todd in there, and a few others like that. But I really wanted to say something about how desensitized we've become to the violence. Some people have mentioned that some of the mob hits that are talked about in it, where did you come up with that? Well, every one of them is taken from something I've seen in a movie that people said, wow, wasn't that cool? Well, I didn't think it was cool at all. So instead of getting on the soapbox and preaching about it, Dom DeLuise actually talked me into making a farce about it. And that's where it kicked off.
Wow. And you actually wrote this quite some time ago. This isn't something fairly new for you.
I wrote it for Charles Durning, Dom DeLuise, Peter Falk, and Jack Klugman. And I actually got to hear them read it twice. The first time Peter wasn't available, he was working, so I read Big Anthony Jr. And Dom, we would go out to dinner, and Dom says, Peter, you got to hear it, you got to hear it. So Peter says, all right, let's go over to my house and read it,
Yeah.
And he loved it. But then Dom got sick, and then Peter got sick, and I just buried it. And then Charlie Durning and Jack Klugman passed Christmas Eve will be 2 years. They died 4 hours apart. And that's when I called Gabe, and I said, he's been trying to get me out here, and I've wanted to come. I said, if you'll do this crazy play. He keeps telling us, I thought you were talking about that play about the golf. What happened to the golf?
No.
I thought I was optioning another play.
But so it's worked out so far.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, you're an amazing actor. I mean, I watched you since I was this big on the Wonder Years. You're best known for Jack Arnold, but I mean, you're an amazing actor, and this was the first time that I saw you on stage. But is that the first time you've been on stage? I mean, you try to do at least one play a year, you say, I remember.
This is my 60th play.
Wow.
Yeah. So Charlie Durning, almost 40 years ago, said, if you ever go a year without doing a play, I won't talk to you anymore. And I said, you got it, but you too. And he said, you got it. Charlie never went a year without doing a play.
Wow.
Even if it was it's amazing. We went to the Playhouse in Connecticut, and for a 3-week run, everybody said, how'd you get Charlie Durning to do it? I said, how did I get him to do it? I couldn't stop him, because he said it'll be a year without a play. I got to do a play. So no real good actor ever leaves the stage.
Right. So
and the more technology takes over television and movies, I'm working with people who can do one line at a time.
Yeah.
That's
got to be hard, though. I mean, that's kind of grueling, really.
Well, it's not acting.
No.
It's filling an editing machine, which is not easy. I agree with you, but it's not what I was taught was acting.
Right. I mean, this kitchen kind of resembles the Wonder Years. We were laughing a little bit earlier. It's like we're right back.
This is the same tablecloth. Somebody dug it up.
But for this show, Dinner with the Boys, I mean, you have an amazing cast as well.
Yeah.
I mean, who are some of the other guys that are working
Ray
with you?
Abruzzo, who was Little Carmine on The Sopranos. My friend Richie Zavalia, who was in a lot of movies like Donnie Brasco and of course Frank Megner, our director. He's been wonderful about it. And we've all been friends for a long time. And I'm not a writer who acts. I'm an actor who writes. And it's a big difference, because when an actor comes up and says, I got a good joke, my first response is, let's try it. Now, sometimes they don't work, and we drop them, but I'll never say no to not trying it, especially in the environment that Gabe has created here. Everybody looks at, we got to succeed, we got to succeed. Well, what he's established here is a place where you can nurture something. If something doesn't work one night, it's not the end of the world. Let's go back, let's work on it. It's for playwrights. And I really feel, and we've talked about this before, the death of regional theater, the reason why they're having such a hard time is doing the same plays over and over and over again. Right. And there's so many good writers out there.
True.
And Gabe, you'll attest to it. You got to read 100 plays to find one good one.
Easily. It's a miracle to find a good play. It really is.
but they're there. You know?
It's just like finding a needle in the haystack, that diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
I mean, this show is actually sold out for like the next week or so that it's here.
Well, it's quite remarkable. I was telling our audiences that usually when I give my little curtain talk before the play, I always reach out to the audience and say, you know, when you leave here tonight, please talk this play up. And I've been telling our audiences to tell nobody that they came to see the play, that they were never here. And the reason is because for the first time in 17 years, all 30 performances sold out after the second preview.
Wow.
And fortunately, we've been able to extend it a week, but even those 7 performances are rapidly disappearing, all the seats.
I mean, I saw it 2 weeks ago. We were cracking up in the audience. It's a great show, and we came to opening night, actually.
Exactly.
So we had the whole big party, and yeah, we got to talk with Dan. I mean, Dan's a good friend of ours now.
And the play's grown since then.
Yeah.
I mean, the pacing is much cleaner, you know. That's the one thing I wish we had, like a little longer run, so we could run previews a little longer before the critics come. But that's okay. We got, you know, we did very well as far as reviews go. But right now, the play, in my opinion, the play is close to where it should be before we open. It's not there yet. But again, that's the beauty of this theater, is you can work on it, you can nurture it, you can keep going with it, we keep working on it.
Absolutely. I mean, even though you wrote this, I mean, do you find that it gets better for you every performance?
Yeah, I have a certain sound in my ear that I want to hear. It's a rhythm thing. Most writers, if they know anything about structure and that, well, it's more like a musical piece. And we hit and miss. We kind of go in and out of it. Now, last night was the first night I felt like, especially in the first act, it was at the pace, it was at the rhythm, and I heard that sound. I was like, I was a happy man. So, and I would have liked the critics to have seen that. But I think most critics, you know, have seen a lot of plays, they've been around, and I think they know this is only the second or third performance, so they see the potential of the play, and that's pretty much what they gave us. They gave us nice reviews. So I'm trying to not play that card too much, but they were very kind to us.
I mean, is it very easy to work with? I mean, the other castmates, they are friends of yours. Is it easier to work with friends?
Oh, yeah, because I'll threaten to kill them if they don't. No, we're all good friends, and we can tease each other, and, you know. So rehearsal's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we reconnected because I was on my computer one night with Hot in Cleveland in the background, and I glance over and I see you. I was like, wait a second, that's Dan. So I quickly sent him an email, and then you said you were doing the show here, and I'm glad we came out because it was amazing. And this was the first time I saw you on stage.
Yeah.
So it was different seeing you from television.
Right.
I mean, you're a hell of an actor.
I don't know, but we're working on that. But I'm glad you came out to find this theater, because this is the theater. There's very few theaters in the country that only do new plays. This is one of them. The one in Florida closed.
Yes.
And the Magic Theater in San Francisco. I can't think of any other theater that does strictly new plays. And as far as I'm concerned, when my tax dollar from the National Endowment goes to a theater that doesn't do any new plays, or like on the West Coast, the West Coast premiere. I'm so tired of seeing that. That means somebody else took all the risks. Somebody else did all the development. And they're getting our tax dollars. I want to see Gabe get the tax dollars.
Right.
I want to see this theater get the tax dollars, because I know it's going to further new plays that are going to be the history of our culture.
And that's one of the things that we talked about when we first met, actually, for the American Theater Channel, the importance of these regional type theaters, that they seem to be diminishing. I mean, Broadway's great. I mean, I love going to Broadway shows too, but there's something different about coming to a hometown theater like this. There's a huge difference.
Yeah. And I hope more and more, I keep emphasizing to my friends who have been fortunate in the business, stars, they all want to go to Broadway. They'd rather do a revival on Broadway. Why? You're going to be compared to everybody else who did it.
Right.
Come here, work on a new play. You know, own part of it if you have to, and then try to move it to New York, and maybe you can go further with it for film or television.
It's a great training tool, I think, in local theater. I mean, you're entertaining a local community who I really think they appreciate a hometown theater like this, like I said, and it's kind of training you for Broadway. So it's like a stepping stone, really.
Yeah.
It should be, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've developed a kind of a niche audience, and our audience has come from long distances course, I always do point out to our audiences that we are located on Broadway, only Broadway in Long Branch, New Jersey. And right now, we get about 1,000 scripts every year from all over.
Wow.
And we view the scripts submitted by a new playwright who has very little exposure with the same seriousness and consideration that we do a play submitted by a seasoned, well-known playwright. Because it's so difficult for writers to get their foot in the door. And I guess what concerns us is that, partly understandably, many of the wonderful writers who would normally write for stage, and maybe who start out by writing for stage, get seduced away to write for potentially more lucrative media, which greatly threatens theater. So that these very talented people whose work we can see on film and in television, and that's all wonderful and good. I mean, they have to make a living.
Right.
It's disheartening sometimes that what is their first passion, which is to write for the stage, because there's something powerful about writing for the stage that you ultimately can't approximate in those other media, and yet they sometimes have to leave it because of practical considerations. So we hope to give them an environment where maybe they won't get seduced away as easily.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, since you write poetry, have you ever thought about writing your own show for your own theater here?
Poetry is a very different genre. I personally have difficulty in conjuring three-dimensional characters for the stage. It takes a certain talent. Poets tend to write with one voice, so if they have a 5-character play, it's all one voice. They just have different names and maybe different sexual orientations, but it's the same voice. Poets write with one voice. Playwrights somehow magically write with many voices.
Yeah, I mean, I've done talks, I've done some acting, as I talked about with Dan one time, but it's like I haven't quite tried out the whole writing yet. I haven't.
It's a very special talent, and I'm always mesmerized, especially since we get so many scripts, and we will go through, just like your experience, we'll be going through 100 scripts, and all of a sudden one just pops out, and when it does, you know it. There's nothing subtle. And you say, how did this happen?
You can feel it in your gut,
Oh,
right?
yeah. How did it happen?
Dan, how long did it take you to write this play?
Well, it didn't take very long to write the first draft. Matter of fact, the first reading was almost 150 pages.
Wow.
And it was hard as a writer to know what to cut because they were enjoying Dom and Charlie and Peter Falk and Jack Klugman so much that nobody wanted to cut anything, you know. But, you know, as years went on, we cut. Matter of fact, it's about 20 pages shorter than when you heard the reading in New York 2 years ago. So we honed it down. And for a lot of writers, that's a very hard, you know, writers have a tendency to hang on to their words. But again, as an actor, I'm like, we don't need that. You know, you'll see that in another play. You know, it's not the immediate line's gone for good. It'll come
But
back.
that's interesting, though, because as the writer and an actor, it's like, how do you decide, like, how do you make that decision knowing that, you know, you might be cutting something that could be critical? Like, is it a tough decision to make?
Usually, for me, if I put the words in my mouth, even of the other characters, not the one I'm playing, I usually go, I wouldn't want to say that. You know, so gone.
Interesting.
You know,
No,
and then sometimes the actor will come back. You know, like I cut something from Ray, and he came back and said, no, I want that. And he put a twist on it that I never assumed was there when I wrote it. And I went, oh, you got it, keep it, you know.
Yeah,
And some of the lines, some of the funniest lines here again were ad-libs by Dom DeLuise came up with that. Something to do with the wrist. That tears the house every night. And that was, I'm taking full credit for it, but that was Dom's.
That's great, though. It's a great show. How long is it extended? Dinner with the Boys.
Well, let's see. We have it running from, it was originally till October 5th, but now it's till October 12th.
Fantastic.
And certainly if people are interested in seeing it, and I'm not stressing this as a producer, I want everyone to see it, not disappoint them. They have to call early because these seats have disappeared very rapidly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we fooled them.
Fantastic show. It's a great show, though. I mean, we saw it, like I said, it's hilarious. I mean, I'm sitting here having dinner with the boys right now. I mean, I feel like I'm part of the show. It's great.
You know, I wanted to emphasize something that Gabe was talking about. A lot of because we had that reading program for years out in L.A., and we had got 83 writers, literary agents. Most of them never wrote for the theater again. And everybody said, see, bro, you didn't get any plays done. They all went to television. Well, that's half true. They went to television because nobody would produce their plays. It wasn't because they turned against playwriting or didn't want to get their plays. They would send, we had one play with 4 Tony winners attached to it, the golf play. Yes. And we sent it to 11 different theaters and they turned it down. With Jack Klugman, Charles Durning was involved.
It's a great cast.
Yeah, John Cullum and Len Carrier. And they turned it down.
Shocking. Really? Huh.
And every one of those regional theaters called at least one of those guys to ask them, like they actually asked John Cullum, would you do All My Sons? He said, I just did it on Broadway. Why do I want to go to East Schlohovitz and do it for your theater? Do the new play.
I mean, the economic forces put tremendous pressure on theaters that need to survive. And so they make pragmatic decisions. If you produce a play that has already been vetted and everyone knows the title, there's a comfort level in going to see it.
Of course.
We made up our mind very early on, knowing this, that we would live or die by doing new plays, that we weren't going to change our mission. So I understood what it took to be practical, but at this stage in our life, we just said, you know, why don't we champion new work, see what happens. And if it doesn't happen, we'll close our doors.
Well, 17 years strong, Gabe. 17 years strong.
Yeah.
That's great. Good for you. Dan, what's coming up next for you after this?
I'm waiting to hear if my TV series gets picked up.
So
and if it doesn't, I might be selling that house I bought. But if it does, well, soon after I'll do another play. You know?
Yeah.
Hopefully something new that Gabe.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you both so much for taking the time and opening your doors to us today. This is a great theater, honestly. You can get here before October 12th, right? Yes. Come see Dinner with the Boys. Dan Lauria, good friend of mine now, fabulous actor. And if you have anything you'd like to share with me, send me an email to jasonshow@yahoo.com. Gentlemen, thank you again for doing this today. Great conversation. My pleasure. I thank you at home for watching. As always, we'll see you next time.
The Jason Galka Show is brought to you by Blue Chip Marketing. If you have a great idea and want the whole world to know about it, Blue Chip Marketing is the way to go. They will make sure that your idea expands from your brains worldwide with their powerful media marketing resources and advice that you can't get anywhere else.